Welcome back. I hope you're fine. Again, the last time I want to look in more detail at M2 money supply, and I want to show it to you on the chart so you understand also what we have been talking in the last video. It's a little refresher and it makes it more clear when you see the charts. We look at the Bitcoin chart on a weekly time frame. It goes back to 2020 here. If you remember in our last video, we talked about the period between 2020 and 25, and this is exactly matching the period. If you look back here, we know we had some health problems back in this period, basically, where we have the M2 money supply rising very much. The yellow-orange line indicates the M2, and the Bitcoin price actually did not move too much, it seems here. But if we measure it, you will see that we have actually quite a good movement. So I measure it from here to here. It is almost 250%. It doesn't look much, but this is a weekly chart and the chart is quite compressed. But you see, it basically confirms that the money printing, the liquidity influx is rising the price. Even it doesn't look like it would be much. It is really quite fascinating. Then we have here the liquidity crossing over the Bitcoin price, basically, and we can measure it up here. So to this point, it doesn't really look like the liquidity is matching anything of the price, right? But we still see that it was actually very beneficial. And you see later from this line I drew here, it is actually changing. We will discuss this in a minute. Let's also measure this move here. It looks bigger. Let's see what happens here when the M2 money supply actually reached over the price. We're just gonna measure it. We can measure it till this high. This is again 276%. If we measure it till the line I drew, it's around 250%, I would say. So again, huge rise, money supply going up. Here the money supply is coming down, and we could again measure it if I take the highs here from the money supply and go basically down to this candle here. It's a decrease of the Bitcoin price of 34.46%. And then again, it seems to me like now they are moving in tandem. So they are matching much better. The Bitcoin price seems to have picked up and they are matching quite well the M2, as we have learned already. So let's also measure what's going on here. I will measure again from the lows here, and we can measure to the top, but let's just measure to like today's price, which is again 111.09% approximately. I'm not measuring very precise, as you see, but just to give you an idea what's happening. Depending on if we have the delay here, right, so we need to click on the indicator. If we have the offset of the indicator, right, I have now for 94 on the weekly chart. That means 94 days the Bitcoin price is delayed now compared to the M2 liquidity. It looks like the Bitcoin price, if I found the right match, it could be that in the next week we are seeing again a downturn of Bitcoin around 23%, and this would go down to a price around 80,000. It's very likely. So if it's now much better matching, then this is likely. But it's also possible that it just runs through here. It also depends what other indicators, other factors we are getting in, if there's again some tariff issues or whatever is happening. One more thing I want to do, and then I leave you alone with my M2 charts. So if we measure from here to the top, this will tell us that till the end of the year, we still probably gonna see around 70% in gains. And this will bring us up to the target we already mentioned, is around 150 to 200,000 by the end of the year. And this is very possible. If we consider that the US didn't even start heavy QE, or how they ever gonna call it, money printing or interest rates lowering, then probably this target can be higher. I hope that was useful. This was a little walkthrough with the M2 money supply. If you have any questions, like always, let me know. I'm happy to help. I see you. Take care. Bye-bye.